Alright, so we'll wait for, yep, okay, so we got, hey, Science in Michigan, glad you could join us. So, since we got a few people popping up, let everyone know our Twitter handles, Wildlife BioGal, and then also Dr. Algae Girl. And if you want to be able to look at the broadcast later, go on to wildlifebiogal.com. I'll upload everything on YouTube, and also I'll make a podcast, Twitter broadcast. Well, I didn't get enough sleep last night. This is gonna be an interesting one for everybody.
Nobody got any sleep last night.
But I'll put the podcast up on SoundCloud for people if they want to watch. So, anyways, we're here in beautiful Buffalo, New York. It's absolutely gorgeous today, sunny and everything. So I am here with our special guest. So if you would like to introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Sarah Whorley, also known on Twitter as Dr. Algae Girl, and I literally just last night moved to Buffalo to begin my new life as an assistant professor of biology at Daemen College here in Amherst, New York.
Wow. So I guess I will open it up for questions and everything, so if everyone has questions, go ahead and fire them off. I'll also have some questions for Sarah that I'm going to tease apart because I have things that I want to ask you too. So so one of my big things is kind of tell us about the background of your academia, because it looks like from the CV that you sent me, you've been slowly moving across country. So what caused those moves? How was it going through grad school?
So I did my undergraduate at the University of California at Riverside, which at the time that I went there, which is not that long ago, but it was one of the smaller UCs, and it was about an hour from home, which is one of the reasons why I decided to go there. But it was there that I was taken under the wing of some ambitious graduate students and hauled out into the wild and taken on month-long field excursions to collect organisms and to collect environmental samples, and where I really got a taste for doing ecology and for doing research in that sort of capacity. After college, my new husband and I decided that we were tired of California, that we wanted to experience seasons. We didn't want it to be 100 degrees all the time. And so we literally threw darts at a map, trying to find somewhere that had some seasons, and some darts landed in Michigan, and I was accepted to Eastern Michigan University to do my master's there, where I hooked up with my wonderful master's advisor, Dr. Steve Frankor, and did my master's with him looking at the photosynthetic activity of wetland algae under various nutrient limitation conditions. And that really solidified in my head that doing research in an aquatic environment on algae, that was what I wanted to do, and that also teaching was a lot of fun, and a lot more fun than I realized that it was going to be. And so I wanted to try and that was it. I was sold on academia, and I wanted to do the research teaching thing, and so then Eastern Michigan doesn't have a PhD program, so it was time to
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they don't have a PhD program.
Yeah, CMU, we just got our PhD program a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they've got it in the works, and maybe it just isn't quite there to fruition yet.
I remember the discussions. There were some discussions about whether or not there could be a PhD program in biology at Eastern, but I think a lot of it was over my head at the time, and now it's been 7 years, and so I don't remember all of the details of it. But it's something that they talk about every now and then. I know that. And Eastern does have a PhD program, just I think it's limited to the education department.
Oh, gotcha.
Which is, what. So anyway, time to do the PhD. So spin the wheel of geographic locations yet again. Only this time we had to match up not only me getting into a PhD program, but also my husband getting into law school.
Oh, that's a tough one, yes. Yeah.
And in case you didn't know, New York City has a lot of law schools. So he got accepted to a couple of law schools in New York City, and thankfully I also got accepted to Fordham University in the Bronx, and so that really worked out. It was the only location where both things matched up, and so we were off to New York City, and where I did my PhD with my fantastic advisor, Dr. John Weir, and I looked there at, not only did I get really involved in teaching all manner of classes in the department, but I really got to cut my teeth on designing my own research project, getting my own funding, and being the master of the ship of my own research.
That's good. I mean, I think it gives you like that nice little jump off. Like you still have a little safety net by having someone around.
Exactly.
But it really lets you like kind of start experimenting with how you can do things. I think when you're in your master's, you have so much over guidance and things, which you need because you're just learning how to science. But then with your PhD, like you're really learning, okay, how do I start this thing from scratch and be able to build something completely? And,
exactly. The masters taught me that I liked doing research and how to do research, and the PhD taught me how to direct my own research.
Okay.
Is how I like to think of that.
So, like, how was it being in a big city and things like that? Because a lot of times, a lot of us outdoor scientists think of, you want to be near maybe some of your research areas. We don't always think of big science, outdoor science happening in these huge cities. But like I learned with Wayne State, they have so many opportunities right there. They're in this huge city, but there are so many spots right around the city of where they're able to do that. How did you find that with, being in New York City? Was there still like a lot of like outdoor science happening there, but maybe just not in the framework that we think of, like Central Michigan University? We're in the middle of nowhere,
exactly,
and we have so many opportunities to do stuff because it's just fields and lakes all around us.
Yeah, so there's plenty of ecology to do in the big city. It's just a matter of sort of shifting your perspective a little bit. So one of the things that the Fordham University Biology Department tries to really focus on the ecology side of things is urban ecology. And so there are a lot of professors and a lot of labs that are focusing on urban ecology research topics. Drs. Jim Lewis and Steve Franks do a lot with green roof ecology, so looking at what plants are going to survive on what sort of green roof conditions, and there's a lot of fantastic grad students that are doing lots of research on towards that end.
Chelsea is doing it.
I
forget exactly what Chelsea's Twitter handle is. I should remember. I'll try to look it up before the end of the broadcast. But and if Chelsea, if you happen to be watching, let us know exactly what your Twitter handle is, because the green roof stuff is really interesting. I've known Chelsea for a while because she did her master's at CMU.
Science is a small world.
It totally is. I mean, the amount of people that we just find that we know each other. Actually, just at the wedding, I found out that the guy that does science in Michigan, which I think you're watching if I thought I saw it earlier. So feel free to give a shout out if you're still there. But that he actually knows one of the bridesmaids that I've hung out with for a couple of years and graduated high school with her, and it was just one of those weird, because we were just randomly talking after the wedding, and I was saying, I'm doing a lot of science communication, I know this one guy that does a lot of science stuff in Michigan, and said, it's Adrian. She's like, wait, what? And she's like, you know him? And it was just one of those, you gotta be kidding me, small world moments. Here we are, on the other side of the country, and finding out that we both know someone back in Michigan. And,
exactly.
It's crazy. And I find the science world, as many ecologists and scientists we have in it, it's every time I go to a conference, somebody knows somebody, somehow, and it's just, it keeps blowing it should stop blowing my mind because it happens all the time, but it still does. But the green roof work is some really cool stuff that they're doing. I like, that, not only does it help, control floodwaters, but the heat, you were talking about the, I forget exactly what the term is.
The urban heat island effect.
Yes, heat island effect. So.
Oh my God, the urban heat island in New York City is off the charts. It's probably one of the best places in the country to go if you really want to experience the differences in the urban heat island effect. So from an ecology perspective, there is a lot of research to do in the city. Dr. Jason Munchie South, he's a faculty member there as well, and he's doing a lot of research on how urbanization affects genetic diversity of everything from the mundane Norway rat that lives in the subways and the sewers to coyotes that are coming in from the outskirts and coming into the cities, and how urbanization affects their genetic diversity. But the aspect of sort of the I guess it's the intersection of urban ecology and the more typical getting out into nature ecology that I worked on was I worked on how agriculture in the New York City watershed affects algal nutritional properties. So New York City, it's the city of 8 million people, and it gets all of its drinking water from two watersheds far upstate, the Croton watershed on the east side of the Hudson and the Delaware Catskill watershed on the west side of the Hudson. And so I worked primarily in the Catskill Delaware River watershed, where there's a lot of dairy farming actually that goes on there. Upstate New York, and I realize I'm now more upstate than when I was upstate during my research, but upstate New York in general has a lot of dairy farming going on, especially in the upper Catskill region. And this is actually it's home to a lot of small dairies that contribute their milk to several large yogurt making facilities. Namely, Chobani has a yogurt making facility upstate, Faye has a yogurt making facility upstate, and I think even now Siggy's has a yogurt making facility. And yogurt is the official state snack of New York, in case you didn't know. Thanks, Cuomo.
Hey, I gotta say, I love my Greek yogurt. Once I started eating that, I just got hooked on it. It's almost an everyday occurrence for me right now.
I had some for breakfast. So there's a surprising amount of agriculture that's going on in upstate New York, in the same mountains and watersheds that are collecting all of this stream water runoff for the 9 million people downstate in Westchester and New York City. And it's this big, I guess I'll call it a hullabaloo about, the rights to the land and the water of the farmers and the people up there versus the rights to New York City residents to the water that eventually drains down into these reservoirs and then gets piped down into the city. And so the balance of letting the farmers do what they need to do in order to grow their cows and have their dairy, but that balance with the farmers versus the balance with the New York City residents wanting clean water is a delicate balance up there. And so I wanted to look at how efforts to mitigate agriculture were affecting the algae that live there, because algae can act as sort of a secondary biological mitigation factor. They can suck up extra nutrients, and so how do the presence of these mitigation factors that the city puts in place work in concert with the algae just doing their thing, and how does that affect their nutritional properties, which can also have secondary effects on, of course, the bugs and then ultimately the fish that live in those streams, because the Catskills is a really famous fly fishing region of New York, and so fly fishing is very commercially important up there as well.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, that would be a beautiful place to be able to go fly fishing, because when we drove through there, we got a quick question here, and from Bob or Fomo, do you know how huge the huge algae growth in Florida? Here, I'll finish my thought real quick, and then we'll let Sarah answer that question. But yeah, going through the Adirondacks there, it just looked like prime fly fishing area, because we cut through there to go up to Agler and Burlington last year, and it was so beautiful, and I could see just people wanting to escape up there.
Oh yeah, lots of beautiful rocky streams, perfect for fly fishing. The algae bloom in Florida. So this is going to sound really bad. I'm aware that it's happening, but I've also been in the process of packing up my everything and moving up here, and so I haven't really been working on following that too closely. From what I understand, it is your sort of typical harmful algal bloom. I believe I want to say it's a cyanobacteria that's...
I'm not sure. I remember seeing the news broadcast. I will admit too, with going on this massive SciComm wedding mega tour that I'm on right now, I really haven't been in touch so much with the news. I kind of see a few flashes here and there, but I haven't really clicked on the links to read in depth about it.
Yes, I'm sort of in the same boat. So it's something that I know is happening, and from what I understand, there's definitely a human nutrient input, either from lawn runoff or sewage overflow, or just general humans putting too many things that shouldn't be in the water that promotes these harmful algal blooms. But I mean, harmful algal blooms are going to be occurring more and more and more as we increase the human population on the coasts, and if there aren't the proper regulations in place to maintain limits on how much we can, sort of drop off in our waterways, and especially with warming temperatures seem to really play a factor in causing or in spurring these harmful algal blooms. Maybe not spurring, but maybe not inhibiting.
Okay.
Is a safer way to say that.
So you think, like, as climate change is happening and there's warming, not only of the air around us, but also the water is being warmed too. Do you think that might possibly help increase
warm, nutrient-rich water is really ideal for a lot of algal species to, these harmful species. Harmful algal species are present in a lot of different waterways, but it's when they sort of get the competitive upper hand over all of the other species that they can really suppress those growths, the growths of those other less harmful or not harmful algal species, and and really just take off. Once you reduce the competition, then they sort of get free reign, and it's the promotion of those conditions which allow the harmful algal species to be competitively superior to all other algal species.
Okay.
That is one of the reasons why these harmful algal blooms are happening so often.
So is it something where, I'm definitely not an algae expert in any means. I took one class my first semester of grad school, and I kind of remember some of it, but not a lot.
They're
Mostly
cute,
having to
green,
sample out in the winter, where it was still snow, and she's like, "There's gonna be algae starting, so we gotta sample now." And you're out in your waders, freezing as you're going in. And there's snow all around you, so
that's prime algae hunting activity, or prime algae hunting weather.
But so do you think that you kind of like have like this low level, and then all of a sudden you're like, a lot of times you just see these big huge blooms happen, so it just escalates that quickly? Is that usually what happens? Or every species has its optimal conditions, and a lot of species have a seasonality that goes along with those optimal conditions, and so it's in a perfect system, you're going to see these seasonal temporal spikes of different species of algae, and it's when those temporal seasonal spikes of any given species of algae coincide with these competitively favorable conditions that it's my understanding that's when these harmful algal blooms tend to be the most problematic. And, if the conditions weren't so favorable for the harmful algal species, and they still had enough competition from other algal species to sort of keep their population at bay, then these spikes might reach the nightly newsworthy proportions that they do. And is it mostly just they're newsworthy because there's the potential for the drinking water to be toxic, then also the fish kills too? Or, are those like the two big things that they cause? Or are there other issues about them that maybe I don't know about?
Well, first and foremost, for a lot of people, it's an aesthetic issue. They don't like. No one wants to go swimming in an algae-covered beach, and I think in Florida, this is actually a marine algal species.
I was going to ask you about that too.
And
I always hear freshwater algae, but I never hear of marine algae. So I was like, okay, is there a big difference?
Marine algae. Well, they're completely different species, and there's a lot of different dynamics that control marine species of microalgae versus freshwater microalgae. Typically, the marine harmful.
Okay. We should be back on. All right, everyone. Give people half a chance to log back on there. This is the fun thing about guerrilla broadcasts and everything, so.
Unstable Wi-Fi. Let's go with data. Oh, hey, there we go.
Yeah, hey, okay, we got people back on. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. Apparently, Panera kicked us off the Wi-Fi, so we're going to do this with data for the rest of this, so I apologize. I'm glad we figured it out, because otherwise we just would have been talking to ourselves. I mean, as entertaining as we are to each other, it's much more fun when everyone else can be around. So I'm trying to figure out it's trying to figure out where we were with the last topic we were talking about. I think we were talking about Lake Erie versus Lake Ontario with the...
we gotta go all the way back there.
Yeah, we might have to go all the way back there. So I think that's where we were at. Yeah. So let's, looking at the harmful algal blooms of Lake Erie versus Lake Ontario, what might be causing the differences between that?
Yeah, so we were talking about how Western Erie has that big slug of nutrients that comes into it from, all of the development and agricultural and industry and everything all around it there in Western Ontario, Western Erie, and how because of the longer retention time in the water there, that's probably a factor that promotes harmful algal blooms in the western basin of Erie. However, in Eastern Erie, even though there's still urbanization, there's still agriculture, there's still a nutrient slug being added, it's not as much as Western Erie, and there might also be a much lower retention time of the water there because of the Niagara River sort of sucking things out over to Ontario. But how does that sucking of things out of Erie and then into Ontario via the Niagara River, how does that dynamic influence not only the harmful algae that could potentially be there, but just all of the phytoplankton that exists in those water bodies, which, all sorts of microcrustaceans in the water are feeding on, which in turn feed small fish, which in turn feed large fish, which green grass, green grass grows all around, trophic level interactions.
Okay. And I think we started talking about how you got hired, what's the process of becoming a new professor at a university, the fun of that.
Yeah. So I guess just to, you can tweet me any questions about the application process, but I guess just to very quickly summarize, I was on the job market for 2 years, 1 year writing the dissertation, 1 year post-dissertation. This past year I applied to 30 or 35 different positions, everything from government technicians to postdocs places to tenure track positions all over the place. And I was saying, you don't have to submit 400 applications. You should be targeting places where you want to live. So if for whatever reason you don't want to move to Wyoming, then don't apply to places in Wyoming, no matter how qualified you are for the job. Because if you're going to be miserable living in Wyoming, and Wyoming is beautiful. I know lots of people that are in Wyoming, and I've driven through Wyoming. The antelope are adorable, and the landscape is beautiful.
But it's not for everybody.
Right. Yeah, if you really want to live in Boston, then you should apply to places like Boston.
We got a question from Anna Bogue. Did you apply internationally to any places?
I did not apply internationally to any places. So once again, I had the two-body problem that we had to negotiate. So my husband is now a lawyer, and his bar is good for New York State.
All right.
And so everywhere that I applied had to be either somewhere in New York State or somewhere
right across the border, basically.
Right across the border, or some acceptable driving distance from New York State, and some state that had bar admission reciprocity with New York State. So, for example, California's bar does not recognize any other state's bar. So if you pass the bar in Arizona, you can't, sort of do your 5 years of law in Arizona and then apply for reciprocity with the California State Bar. You have to take California's bar again. Same with Florida. I saw a lot of good jobs in Florida that was like, I really want to apply to the job, but it was in Florida, and Florida doesn't have bar reciprocity. But Vermont does, Massachusetts does, Connecticut does, Rhode Island does. All of these sort of northeastern corridor states have reciprocity with New York. So that was my two-body problem that I had to negotiate. So no international applications. And so out of those 35 applications, I got 4 phone interviews, 3 on-campus interviews, and 2 job offers, which is a pretty good track record from what I hear.
Yep. As you see, we always keep hearing these horror stories of more and more PhD students being generated out, but there's no positions for them. And so you've got this big backlog of people trying to filter through this tiny little thing.
I feel like in some fields it's getting better, in other fields it's not. Like I've been hearing about the crisis among history PhDs. For example, when I went through the graduation ceremony at Fordham, I was standing next to a couple of unemployed PhDs from the history department, unfortunately. So yeah, the struggle is definitely real. I don't want to make light of how of how hard it can be to get a job. I feel incredibly lucky, like I won the lottery that I landed this position, because especially for a tenure track position, you know, it's sort of, you know, beaten into our heads that first you do the PhD, then you do the postdoc, and then you get the tenure track.
Right.
And so to have leapfrogged that postdoc phase, sometimes I wonder if I would be less nervous about starting as a professor if I had done a postdoc.
Right.
But then I hear no.
Yeah, so Anna Vogue is saying even more reason to network and collaborate during grad school. Never know who's hiring. Yes, very true.
100% true.
Yeah.
Go to part of what landed me.
Oh, and P.S. Congrats, Sarah. You're
Thanks,
awesome.
Anna. Yeah, going to conferences. You know, I understand that conferences are expensive and that they can be a hassle to go to.
Right.
But you know, one, they're great for meeting people, and you know, everyone says, you know, go to conferences and it's great for meeting people, but it's not only that you have to go to the conferences, it's that you have to go consistently.
Right.
Because otherwise people don't get to know you.
Right, and they forget from year to year who you are. Like
Exactly.
the conferences that I've gone to Wildlife Society 4 years in a row and IAGLA 4 years in a row. I've basically been adopted by 2 different labs, you know, one at each conference. And so every time I go there, I've got a group of people that I can go and hang out with. They know who I am. Even when we're not conferencing, they'll come and check in with me during the year.
Exactly.
And so they know me really well. They know of any opportunities that pop up. They're going to send stuff my way, just like I do with them. Like I know there's a master's student who just graduated. I keep sending her all this job information because I know she's looking for a job in like what particular area. And since I do a lot of psychom, I see it come across my desk. But that's only because I know her and have, you know, met with her, hung out with her enough that I care about her to be able to want to do that. And you want people that are going to do the same thing for you, because when you go to the conferences, it's almost like a sense of family that you get with them there, and you have to do that year after year, because if you're not there, as much as they care about you, sorry, people are not going to remember you if you're not always there with your face right in front of theirs.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
Unfortunately. So, and you know, I feel like conferences are also sort of a really great way to keep yourself on task. You know, you've got to produce. You know, especially if you want funding to go to a conference, you've got to have a product.
Exactly.
You've got to have a talk. You've got to have a poster. You've got to have a reason to be at that conference. And I sort of so throughout my PhD, I would use conferences as okay, here's a benchmark. I have to have something done so that I can go to this conference and not just be a wallflower.
Right. Yeah, because everyone's always asking, are you presenting or what are you doing?
Yeah.
And like you say, no,
when's your talk? Where's your poster located?
Right.
And if you're just like, no,
I just thought I'd come hang out this year. No, I mean, you want to be able to do something. Like, and even if you say like you don't have a talk that you want to do, like be someone who's helping to run a workshop or something. So you're always doing something productive there.
Exactly.
I think is the key thing.
And in terms of being productive, I was on. So I have two home conferences. One is the Northeast Algal Society. That because of you know my consistent attendance over the last several years there. Yes, volunteer. Throughout my consistent involvement with the Northeast Algal Society over the last several years, I'm now their incoming member-at-large on the executive committee. My other home conference is the Society for Freshwater Science, formerly the North American Methodological Society. NABS forever. But you know, I started going to that conference when I was a master's student, and I got to know people, and I got and it gave me the courage and the confidence to apply or to volunteer to run the merchandise table for 3 years.
Okay.
And you know, everyone buys a conference T-shirt.
We love
including all of those big wigs. And
they make a great field shirt, you know, when you're out and about, or just, you know, something to throw on.
They do make great field shirts, and everyone buys them. So if you really want to meet that big wig, and you don't have, you know, and if you're sort of there on your own, you don't have anyone to make that introduction, and you are maybe too shy to just go up and say hi, work the merchandise table, because they're going to buy a shirt.
Right. No, I mean, that's a good idea, because like you said, you're going to have so many people coming in, and they're going to get to know you and talk to you. And even if it's just for that brief moment, you've made that initial connection with someone. And then so hopefully when you see them later on at the conference, you're more likely to feel comfortable with being able to approach them, and they'll be like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I remember you, yeah, let's talk.
Yes.
So yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good idea. Yeah, because I've never volunteered at a conference. Like, I've always thought about it, and I wondered, like, how much time, with volunteering, should I, like, volunteer, or is it going to take away for other things? That was the thing, I was always afraid, like, it's going to take away from other time that I want to spend talking with people and stuff. But if you're there completely by yourself, and that's the first time, that's a great way to, like, kind of get your foot in the door.
Exactly. It gives you purpose, so you're not just sort of floating through the conference hall,
right,
adrift without a tether.
Yeah, because there's conferences I've gone to where I was the only one from my university there, and it's very interesting. Like you said, you just kind of feel like you're just floating around, and luckily, like, I was able to connect with people and feel like I was a part of something. And there's been other times too where we've had very large groups from CMU go to places, and we see these other grad students, and they're the only ones there, so we just adopt them in. Like, come hang out with us, because you want that, because it helps. I mean, that's the whole point of being there, is to be able to talk to people and stuff. You don't want anyone feeling like they didn't get the most out of their trip there, so bring that, and it makes it more fun for us too to have someone else around.
And then you have a new conference friend.
Yes, exactly. So Anna saying you also meet other grad students from volunteering and get to know their advisors. Yes, that's very good idea. Yes.
Yep, I met Anna and her lab mate Darren through volunteering. So that's how I know Anna as a conference friend.
Right. Yes, I have so many Twitter friends and conference friends and things like that, and it really does help make your experience that much better. And it's always so much fun when you actually get to see them again, even if it's been a year since you see them. It's like, oh, my old friend, come hugs, and
and then once you have that sort of group of friends built up, then it's not such a chore to schlep off to a conference every year, and then it sort of becomes like a week of science summer camp.
Exactly. Well, and then the other thing too is by making those connections, if those conference friends end up having a project that they say, well, I need some help with, and I know your set of skills, why don't you come help me out? Well, there you go. You just got yourself funding, other things that you can do so you can help support your grad students and stuff. So it's like it benefits in the end. It might not always pay off in that particular way, but just also the support that you get out of it by having people that understand your research is similar to theirs. It's that good support system that you get. So it's not just that 100%. That week of fun science camp. It's all that other stuff behind it that also helps you as a scientist feel good about what you're doing, have people relate to.
Yes.
So since you're like in the process of, the school year is about to get started. It's August now. I can't believe it's actually August.
Oh my gosh.
So like, how do you set up a lab? Like, how do you start from scratch and set up a lab?
Oh, so one of the first things that I did was I walked around my old lab and I took pictures of everything.
Okay.
It's like, okay, here's how this filtering contraption is set up. So even if I don't know what a piece is called, maybe I can send a picture of the thing to a BWR representative and say, I need this.
Right. That's a good idea. I've always done that with any sort of Christmas gifts that I wanted. I would always take a picture of it, and I would catalog those pictures and give it to my mom and be like, hey, here, this is what I want. So that way there was no mistaking what it is. And so that visual guide is really good.
Yes. So setting up a lab. I'm still sort of in the process of figuring that out. So at Daemen, I don't have my own personal lab. Okay. We have shared research space.
All right.
So I get some counter space in a lab room where a lot of other professors also have their counter space for their research as well.
Okay.
I do have one piece of equipment purchased that the last year's budget was needed to be used up, and what was the big ticket item that I needed. So I got my one big ticket item. The first of many big ticket items.
Yes.
Excuse me, and hopefully in the future I'll have a grant to pay for the other ones. Daemen is a undergrad-only institution, but all of the students in the department are required to do 3 to 4 semesters of research as part of their degree requirements.
Oh, okay.
So I'm guaranteed some amount of student workers.
Which is good, because you're not having to go out and search. They're going to be coming to you and saying, hey, we do this. I think almost in a way that's easier rather than having to maybe like go and shop for grad students and stuff. You've got it all right there locally, and they're going to be coming through your classes, so you're going to get to see them and know which students are going to be a good fit for your lab.
Yeah. So that's going to be great, and I'm really excited to have students to show how awesome it is to get outside and to how cool it is to get in the water, and all of the things that you can do with the toothbrush that are not brushing your teeth.
What are all the things that you can do with a toothbrush that aren't brushing your teeth?
You can scrub a rock with a toothbrush. You can use it as a measurement tool if you need to know how big a bug is.
That's a good idea. Yeah, like just like I always sometimes will use a shoe or like my multi-tool if I'm out like tracking.
So you know it's like a scale bar. You just sort of lay it down next to a thing. You know, and it's got the little tongue scraper part on the back that you can use as a different sort of scraper on a rock. You can use it to flick caddis fly cases off of a rock so that you can better get to the algae that you want.
Nice. So there's a blog post right there for you. All the different ways to use a toothbrush for science.
There's so much field equipment that is not field equipment.
Yeah, honestly, I love ecology because you get creative with common objects,
Exactly,
and yes, you do.
exactly.
Like, someone just, I think maybe it was yesterday, posted up of how they go to like the hardware store for so much of their science stuff. And when I was doing my project, all the traps I built, all the measurement tools pretty much came from Home Depot. I just went in there, started pulling stuff off the shelf, and went back home and built it all together and made it by scratch. So it's, you know, you have to use a lot of times just those common everyday things and figure out a way to science with it.
Yeah.
So.
One of the first research projects I did at Fordham was I wanted to look at fatty acids in early colonizing algae, and so I had a bunch of river rocks that were clean, no algae on them, and I wanted to be sure that I was going to be able to find these exact rocks again.
Right.
And so I wanted to know that they were going to stay put. And so I wanted to epoxy spikes to the bottom of the rock so that I could just nail that sucker into the riverbed. And having to go to True Value and explain to the guy what. First I just went in there with a shopping list. And when we couldn't find the exact things on the shopping list, he was like, well, what are you trying to do? And trying to explain to this guy what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Probably gave him a story at least for the rest of the week.
Yeah, like that was my same issue too, was trying to explain to them what I was doing with it and getting their minds to be able to wrap around like the craziness of the project and what I was doing. And like once I got it, they totally thought it was really cool and everything, but it was just like, how do I explain this in terms for like, you know, someone from a hardware store that these are the pieces I need? Because I wasn't 100% sure of what I needed, but trying to explain the things I think I need, like, do they think it's going to work for what it is I'm doing? Them not being wetland and scientists, like, might not understand. So it was fun, but it was a good learning experience. So, and we all came out laughing and having a good time. So.
And it's, you know, it's a level of science communication that you can, you know, get good at on your own.
Right. So speaking of science communication, tell us what you like about science communication, how it's helped your career, you know, just your thoughts and feelings of it, you know, directions you think it might go that you want to, or maybe that you want to see it go.
Gosh,
I'm just like throwing science communication out there and like just say a whole bunch of stuff.
I feel like I'm still so new to all of the science communication resources that are out there, especially video formats like this. I've been reading a lot of people's blogs for a long time. One of the blogs that's really forced me to sort of up my ecology game is Dynamic Ecology. That's a really good hardcore ecology blog.
Okay.
A really good hardcore ecology blog to read. And I guess just having curated my Twitter to be a very science-based Twitter, and so that I'm like, if I'm in the mood to have a science conversation, I can go to Twitter at any point, and I have now a number of science people on Twitter that I can just talk science with, and so having that sort of dedicated conversation stream that I can jump in and out of, it's been a really good. It's been a really good source for ideas, like what can I do with this? Just sort of getting a science concept into a conversational tone. You know, if you can tweet about a science concept, then I'm better able to talk about it.
Right.
You know, and having to, and you know, using Twitter as a platform sort of brainstorming how I was going to write my dissertation helped me write my dissertation. Being able to put ideas that I wanted to put into my dissertation into 140 characters helped keep the sentences very short and concise. And it really cut down on those
you didn't want
extraneous
that paragraph
words.
long sentence you had to throw.
Yeah, it really cut down on those, and it made it made Dr. Weir's life of editing my dissertation a lot easier. I think he had a lot fewer thes and therefores and whereofs to cross out. So that's been so between Twitter and blogs, those have been really great formats. And when I'm looking forward to having an office where I can just sort of, if there's a video that I want to play, then I can just go ahead and play it, and I don't have to worry about it bothering the 3 grad students sitting at the desk next to me, or someone looking over my shoulder going, "Oh, what are you watching?" So I'm looking forward to having that flexibility to get more into the video and audio side of science communication.
Yeah, I really like the ability of just be able to sit down with someone randomly and be able to talk and like let other people, get in on the conversation as well, which always makes it more fun because you get that
these
interaction.
Questions coming up are great.
Yeah, and like for me, it's just it's almost kind of like a conference in a phone. And they've actually done Twitter conferences, which are really neat. So you get 15 minutes and you're just tweeting about your project, and then once the 15 minutes are done, they move to the next presenter. Yeah. And so that's a really neat concept. But for me, like, we always keep talking about how conferences are so important because you're networking with people. With Twitter, I get to network with so many people, and then it's nice now to actually do like these, live tweet ups, and it's even more fun, getting to tweet up with someone live, through the broadcast. So it adds a little more dynamic to it. But I'm getting all these really cool connections all across the U.S. and even some people across the world that I've met through Twitter, and it's so nice. And it's not always people who are doing necessarily my field of research, but by talking to other people outside of, say with Algae, or some shark guys down in Australia that I talked to, it just really broadens my sense of science. And so sometimes I'll see something that works, maybe like in your project, like, that's kind of interesting. I wonder how that would apply to this. And so then I have that idea of something that I can use.
Because the whole environment is interconnected, and it's, to stay tunnel visioned on your small corner of ecology without remembering that, at some point my small corner of ecology connects to the greater ecological world, I think can be detrimental. And so having to remind yourself, I need to think about how my research affects swans. I need to think about how my research affects different fish. How do harmful algal blooms affect shark ecology as we work to preserve all the species of sharks. So it's a good form of reminding that we're all in it.
And I like too, like, I've gotten some really good friends off of Twitter. Like I would always say, like, I was never like one of those people where I thought like I'd have good friends come from the internet. I always like to meet and talk to people.
Meet space.
But it's been really helpful because Anna's saying we're new friends because of Twitter. Yes, definitely. And it's nice because you're having not only colleagues, but as they like slowly switch to being friends in science too, you could talk to them about things in life. So, when instance like you're having to spend 12 hours a day in your lab, other scientists can relate to that maybe members of your family or your other friends who aren't in science can't completely relate to and understand. So to be able to have someone to talk to about those issues, that aren't directly related to research, but related to your life as a scientist, that they can understand that, it really does help.
It does help to have that sounding platform, and to have a place to vent where where you don't have to worry about someone saying, "Oh, well, summer vacation's coming up soon. You'll have a break."
You don't understand. I'm more busy.
There is no summer vacation.
That is the crazy time. I'm driving 9 hours a day just to get to my sites. Yes.
Field work is like 90% driving.
Yeah. I go to bed at night feeling like I'm still on the lake and I'm rocking in the bed. Yes, I mean, people who are sitting at their cubicle all day don't quite always understand that. And so to have that other person that can get that is really nice. So, but I don't know, do we have any other questions out there for Sarah? Feel free to fire away. I don't know, is there anything else that like I haven't covered that you maybe like want to talk about that is of interest to you with Great Lakes and your research, being a new professor, the new university. Maybe tell us a little bit more about Daemen College, because I have to admit, before like you got your job, I had never heard of it. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more. Oh wait, here we got a
scariest part of being a new prof. I don't know. There's so many, and I feel like they're all connected to each other. I guess the thing that I'm most worried about is keeping up with everything. Can I keep up? Like everything that I know that everything that I'm going to do in the next semester, year, however long time period, it's everything I've done before, but it won't quite have been this much all at once. So like right now, I'm really focused on getting lectures written.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get to the because I'm teaching a number of different classes this semester, and so I'm trying to get to sort of the halfway semester point of fleshed out outlines of at least half the lectures, so that it's not, the night before, oh crap, I've got to spend 5 hours writing this lecture.
Right. Yeah, because for me, I mean, the most I've ever had to write is maybe a 15-minute introduction to the lab. So I do those little tiny lecture introductions, but to actually do an hour-long class multiple times a week, that's that's a lot of work.
And one of the sort of stumbling blocks that I've run into is that so one of the classes that I'm teaching is biostats, and the program that Daemen primarily uses is SPSS.
Oh.
I'm used to using SysStat.
Okay.
So
we use Minitab when I taught that, and now we're slowly trying to switch people over to R too. So it's
so I like all of my computer demos I haven't done for stats because I don't have SPSS yet.
Right.
So I can't take screenshots of things that don't exist. So that's going to be one of those at the last minute doing those things, because hopefully when I get my school computer, I'll get SPSS on there.
Okay.
So that's a little nerve-wracking, and just sort of new school, new student body attitude towards things. Students at Fordham are very different than students at Eastern Michigan, and not and I don't mean to say that any students anywhere are better or worse than any other students.
It's just a different flavor to things.
Yeah, different flavor, different culture, a different level of expectation of what they want out of you. And granted, my experiences with students at Eastern Michigan and students at Fordham have been at different levels. This will be my first level of experience with a student body at the level of professor, not just adjunct, not just grad student TA. Like this is it. This is penultimate authority.
Right. Yeah. It all like if there's any issues, it falls to you. It's not like you can run to the professor on record and say, I've got this issue with a student. How do you want me to handle this? It's you're the one who has to handle it.
Yeah, and I can talk to my colleagues across the hallway and say, I have this issue. This is how I'm thinking of handling it. What do you think? And so there's still that sounding board there, but it's different.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah.
And so that's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Mostly I just don't want to screw up, and I don't want to let anybody down. I don't want to let my students down. I don't want to let my new colleagues down.
Right.
And it's gonna be a challenge.
Well, and I think too, just the nervousness of being in a new place. Being a military brat, I moved every 2, 3, 4 years to different places, and as comfortable as I am with meeting new people and stuff, there's always still just that little level of nervousness of, okay, is everyone gonna like me?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just that simple, basic human thing. Is like, okay, is this gonna work out? Is this gonna be a good place for me to be? And you're nervous about it. As comfortable as you are with stuff, it's that slight little nervousness of, okay, first day jitters.
Yep.
Okay.
Not gonna sleep the night before school.
Yeah.
Like I haven't slept for the class. I don't even know how long I've been a student.
Yeah. Well, I
all
think
my life to this point.
Pretty much once you get into academia, there's just no sleep until you retire. Any other questions for Sarah? So, anything to do with Great Lakes, algae, school, life changing from student to officially a professor? So, give you guys a second to come up with any sort of questions. So, because it's an absolutely beautiful day, and I'm sure Sarah does not want to go back and have to continue unpacking boxes. It's probably nice just to be able to sit here, relax a little bit.
continue to break up fights between the cats.
Yep. So
the one cat is totally reverted to like feral form, like just everything.
The move just wasn't that good.
No. She just hates life and everything. Everything is upside down and she hates it.
Oh, they'll get used to it eventually, hopefully. So, okay, we got and as I'm packing as I watch, my cats are doing better slowly.
It's a slow process.
Yeah,
it's a slow process.
Sure.
Our old man is already pretty comfortable. He's already over it, except for the fact that the little one keeps attacking him.
Oh, okay. So just like probably just the nervousness of all the new smells and sounds and whatnot.
Yes, yeah. They don't have to listen to car alarms anymore. They can hear birds. They can see squirrels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something else to say too. Like whenever you're moving to a new institution, to like keep in mind like all the things that you have to do with moving and whatnot, all that goes behind it.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, making sure like the university you go to has like good facilities to try to like, you know, who do you call? Where do you move to? All those kind of things, like, you know, making sure that they can help you out with that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, like I don't even have an office yet. The office literally doesn't exist.
Okay.
And so I've got this whole corner that is just boxes of books waiting to go there.
Right. Yeah. And then
that's another thing. Start accumulating boxes as a grad student because you often get them for a lot cheaper.
Just store them at mom and dad's house or something, and when you need them, throw them back on wood, or unless you're like you're halfway across the country. From
yeah,
there,
exactly. I mean, I had so many books crammed underneath my desk, in my desk. I took 4 boxes of books from my desk in the lab alone.
Okay. Wow. And of course, you don't want to get rid of them, one, because they could be good resources, and two, we all know we want to kind of secretly be that scientist that has that really awesome library shelf in their office. I mean, come on, it's just a cool look. We all like it, so we're all nerdy like that. So
books are great.
Any questions you guys have for Sarah? Do a last call on questions, and then if not, we're gonna head out of here because it's definitely lunchtime, and I think we can stand to get some food at some point. Yeah. So if you guys have any other questions that you think of afterwards, definitely feel free to tweet us. I'll put the Twitter handles again real quick. So Wildlife Algal for myself, and then Dr. Algae Girl for Sarah. And if you want to be able to check out the broadcast afterwards, you can go to wildlifealgal.com, watch the YouTube video, also put them up on broadcast. And since this one got interrupted by the Wi-Fi connection dropping out on us, I'll make sure that I put up both of them and have all of that, the links up there for you guys. So with that, we'll sign off, and like I said, if you have any questions, make sure you tweet us. We'll be around. So signing off from Buffalo.